There is a common misconception out there that you need to spend 10, 20, 30, 100, $150,000 on a nice fishing vessel to get off of the bank and go hit the spots that you've always wanted to hit, to fish the bridges, to fish the jetties, to fish the marinas, whatever it may be. Let me put that myth to rest, because right now I am sitting in a $300 Facebook Marketplace mini boat that I have used to catch all of the inshore species. And next to me is the world's cheapest Jon Boat I picked up for $599 from Tractor Supply, and it has caught me some of my biggest redfish of my life. Today, I'm gonna tell you how buying cheap plastic tiny boats has completely changed my fishing game, my fishing career, and overall the way I fish. Hands down, getting off of the bank is one of the easiest and quickest ways to transform your fishing game. Now, don't get me wrong, I love fishing from the bank. I started fishing from the bank and I had a blast. Even to this day, I find fishing from land, from shore, is even more satisfying than fishing from a boat. However, it's hard to beat getting out on the water, opening up a whole new world of spots for you to go and explore, and open up a whole new world of memories for you and some buddies. And hey, I get it, kayaks are not for everybody. Cheap kayaks are tippy, they're sketchy, they're hard to fish, and they're unstable. And most fishing kayaks actually cost significantly more than any boat I'm gonna show you today. I bought my first fishing boat for $300 cash on Facebook Marketplace, and it is this boat you are seeing right here, the Pond Prowler 10-foot, 2-man mini plastic pontoon boat, and it is so incredible. It came with a battery, it came with a trolling motor, and the boat with custom seats for $300. This boat changed everything. You see, I got this boat before I even really knew a whole lot about saltwater fishing, but simply getting, you know, a couple dozen yards off of the shoreline and using a trolling motor to go down the grass flats, even though we didn't really know what we were doing, we instantly started having success. We were plucking up all sorts of speckled trout just from getting off of the high pressure shoreline and exploring more untouched areas. And I know what you're thinking, Grayson, this looks a little bit sketchy for the bay. But believe it or not, this thing can handle a decent amount of waves. So you can get these brand new from Bass Pro or Cabela's for only $799. And that is significantly cheaper than any of the high-end fishing kayaks. And we're gonna run through a few of the features. It has 2 bow cleats, 2 stern cleats, comes factory with stern grab handles. My transom is kind of ate up, but the aluminum is still intact. But this is rated for up to a 3.5 horsepower motor. There is a battery tray. You have about 8 cup holders all around. This one has my little graph mount in it. But right here, you can see some plugins. It is actually pre-wired through the hole for a bow mount trolling motor. So on the bow plate right here, this can take a 40-pound thrust trolling motor, and the plug is right here, which is super awesome. It also comes with 2 360-degree swivel seats. They don't look like this, they have been upgraded, and as you can see, I've added all sorts of upgrades. We've got foam flooring to dampen vibrations when we're fishing in shallow water. And of course, we added a fully retractable bimini top. Simply spending $300 on a boat, even if we had bought one brand new for $800, got a $100 Minn Kota Endura C2 30-pound thrust with a cheap battery for around $1,000. This thing is really hard to beat. You see, it's a pontoon style boat, not a flat bottom like the next boat we're gonna talk about. Therefore, it is really, really shockingly stable, way more stable than a kayak. And if you're fishing with only one person, you can remove that front seat and you have an entire casting deck. In fact, people often build casting decks on these. So as my wife and I were learning more about fishing and going through these smart fishing spots, now whenever we would open up the app, we would turn on the smart layers and we would see those red hot zones. Well, now we could hop in our boat and we could go to those zones and start slinging lures. And before you knew it, because of this boat, we started catching species that we had so much trouble catching, species that we never caught from shore, including redfish. We got to explore and discover and learn where redfish like to go by simply being on the water and putting in the time and exploring in our boat. We started slaying redfish. We figured out the flounder. We were getting trout by the hundreds, bluefish, ladyfish, all of the inshore species. If there was fish in the water, they were in this little boat. However, since this was my first boat, there was an issue titling it. We'll talk about it a little bit later in the video so you don't make the same mistake. But this boat right here practically is unregisterable. It had been registered before. We ran into some issues. The seller wouldn't cooperate, so I couldn't get this boat registered. And we just loved bridge fishing so much, but you know, with the FWC always coming through there, it's a high traffic area. We just didn't want any headaches. So we decided to head to Tractor Supply and pick up a brand new boat for only $599. And that would be the world's cheapest Jon Boat, my new pride and joy. This is the Sun Dolphin American 12. And I've seen them go as low as $459, depending on location, sales, time of year. And on average, they're about $729. But I picked this one up for $600. And this boat changed everything. As you can see, this one, we've got the numbers on the side. So we were able to comfortably fish the bridge. And what's really awesome is these boats are made out of high-grade polyurethane. So that means you can see my numbers are a little bit scratched up, but we're rubbing up against the pilings with, you know, razor sharp oysters, but we don't have to worry about fiberglass. We don't have to worry about scraping up the aluminum or listening to that nasty sound. It's plastic. We bounce off of everything. We can hit other boats. You know, it doesn't really matter. These things are really, really durable. So we're rubbing up against it, getting the sheep's head, getting the black drum, going right up into the structure, bouncing off of it and plucking out giant redfish. So I paid $900 for both of these boats, of course, before the upgrades. And both of these boats have changed my fishing forever. Just the ability to go explore different spots, the ability to go learn different things, look at the fish, put your hands on the spots that you've been looking at on smart fishing spots with the satellite, with the GPS, going through Google Earth, saying, that looks like a great spot, but how do I get to it? I don't want to kayak. This was the solution to my issues. So let me tell you a little bit about this boat. They both have about a 532-pound weight capacity, but this boat is a 12-foot, but that is a pontoon, therefore that is more stable. So that's a smaller boat, but it's actually more stable. This is less stable, but is a bigger boat. It comes with 2 benches, 4 rod holders. It comes with a 40-pound thrust capacity bow mount, just like that one, except I run a 55-pound just fine on it. And select models will actually have the same trolling motor plug that that boat has, except unfortunately this one doesn't have it, so I run my battery right there. However, it comes with 2 benches, plenty of side storage for tackle and water bottles, and the transom is actually rated for a 6 horsepower instead of a 3.5. So if you're looking for a boat that simply moves faster through the water than a pontoon style, you can put up to a 6 horsepower motor on this boat, which is pretty stinking cool. Between the 2 boats, they have their pros and cons, but this is the boat that I use every single day. This is the boat you have seen me slay fish on Salt Strong. Now, I wish that I could bridge bottom fish with this boat because the seats, you know, it being not so wide, you can sit right there and bottom fish easily. As with this boat, I actually prefer flats fishing on this boat because I can stand on the benches and sight fish for the redfish and trout that I am looking for. This boat also has its set of upgrades, including folding bow and stern cleats, which I put on EVA decking all over it so that way it stays cool and less vibrations in the water spooking it. I also have a aluminum flooring kit with hydro turf. But other than that, there's not a ton of upgrades. I do have a fish ruler right here, and this boat actually also has a bimini top just like this one. However, I like to stand on the bench and sight fish, so I usually leave the bimini top off on this boat. Another huge benefit with these boats is that you can actually throw them in the bed of your truck. Now, I actually have a utility trailer for these guys just because, you know, I have them fully rigged and I just like to use the trailer if I have to, but both of these fit flawlessly in the bed of my truck. So you don't need a trailer if you don't want to. You do have to register these, which we'll talk about, but you also don't need to pay for a bunch of storage, for fancy cleaning. You don't need to pay for maintenance. You don't need to pay for insurance. and a trailer is optional. So owning these boats is maintenance free. It really costs nothing besides renewing the registration. And speaking of that, these boats do still need to be registered. You see, in Florida here, in most states, anything that has a trolling motor on it still requires registration. So if you're buying one used, don't make the mistake I did. Make sure it has a title if your state does titles. Make sure it has a bill of sale, and figure out what your state laws require for registering vessels, because it turns out you register these boats just like you would register a $150,000 center console. If you're buying brand new, of course, it won't have a title yet, but the DMV will give you one, or the tax collector, whatever it's called in your state. But get the MSO, the manufacturer statement of origin. They should give it to you when you buy it from the department store, or you can get it online. So it's not that big of a deal. Get the MSO for brand new, and make sure you get registration, title, whatever you need if you buy it used that has previously been registered. Now, if you buy a used one of these that have never been registered, check your state laws. You should just need a bill of sale. But if it has been registered, make sure you have all the required documents. As you can see, these boats have literally actually changed my lives. Without these boats, I would not be a part of Salt Strong. Without these boats, I would not have a YouTube channel that helps sustain my life. Without these boats, I would not be a full-time fisherman. I would not own a fishing charter. I would still be sitting on the bank, not catching a ton of fish. I really hope this has kind of broadened your horizon. Yes, you're not going to run 60 miles an hour offshore to get some tuna, but for calm bay waters, bayous, and bridges, these are phenomenal budget options that you can fit in the bed of your truck and store on its side in your garage. If you guys would like to learn more, subscribe to the Salt Strong YouTube channel and join the Insider Club. There is actually some awesome free materials. If you go to www.saltstrong.com/free materials, we'll give you some stuff to get started to really up your saltwater fishing game. If you'd like to learn more or ask me any questions, definitely join the Salt Strong Insider Club. You can see me in there, Greyson Roberts. I am a coach, and you can send me a direct message, and I would love to help answer any questions you have about tiny boats, buying, selling, modifying, or more importantly, tiny boat fishing. Thank you guys for hanging out with us here at Salt Strong. As always, tight lines and God bless.